Happy Monday. Happy Social Work Month. We are in the second week of March. So this is March 11th. We are in episode 111. We are moving right along with these episodes. I love that. I love that because it just shows consistency with myself. It shows consistency with like all the hard work and everything that I've been through. So I really love that. Oh, that's ugly. Okay. We'll do that. Okay, so yeah, we are figuring that out. I don't know, I'm just proud of myself. I guess you could say this microphone is really bothering me. Okay, well, there's that. Okay. Whew. Yeah, life been trying me, okay? Life has been trying me, but I am just fighting to like just do what I know I'm supposed to do and just keep moving forward. Like it's just the littlest things. Like this freaking microphone is like really bothering me. Like if I put it right there, it's right in the camera. So, anyways, there we go. Anyways. But yeah, so it is March. It is social work month. As a social worker, I take this month very, very serious because social work, we are the advocates of the world and we are an industry that needs advocacy ourselves, right? There's so much going on. And what was it last week? The first weekend of March, I went to the Millennial Social Work Conference. This is their sixth annual conference. And I met a lot of social workers, and I just met so many social workers who knew about policies and different advocacy initiatives that were going on for the industry of social work. We need so much. And sometimes I'm like, I just wish I was a better social worker. I just wish I was more knowledgeable about stuff. But here's the thing about social work. Each state has its own legislation, has its own qualifications of like how to identify a social worker, what are the criteria, what do you need to be called a social worker, and just different types of things. So even as a social worker who is very active in the social work industry, it's still impossible to know everything that's going on. And it's a learning process because this state might do one thing, but this state might not do. It's a whole I just learned about like a couple states who do reciprocity if you have licensure. It's a whole thing, okay? And so the one thing I can do as a social worker is just to bring attention and knowledge to the social work industry. And if I am wrong in anything that I say, being open to being educated in that, which I am. One of the things that like kind of encouraged me this year to like start getting back active in the social work industry as far as like CEUs, workshops, conferences was that I realized I was doing the math earlier this year and I graduated with my bachelor's of science in social work in 2015. I graduated with my master's of social work in 2019 and it's now 2024, and in between that time there was COVID. There was just a lot, and so I always talk about on this podcast that we shift, things shift. Well, the social work industry has shifted. So things that I learned in school may not actually exist anymore. Things and policies that I learned about and that I've been living by might not actually be a thing anymore. And I even see that in the city that I'm residing in, which is St. Louis. And like, for example, in grad school, Masters of Social Work, I did my final project. One of my final projects was on I did research and policy on basketball courts not being in the city parks of St. Louis City and how that is proven to be segregation and racism still exists in the city of St. Louis. Well, in 2024, or maybe even 2023, I don't know the exact time, there are now a couple city parks with basketball courts in there. And so it's just interesting to see that like at one point you wouldn't have ever thought that some of these parks would have basketball courts because the city was so adamant about not having it. But fast forward 5-6 years and now we have it. And so even in that example, like things constantly shift and things constantly change. And so as a social worker, I know that. And as a social worker, there is a responsibility to continue to learn. And so the industry can be very, very frustrating. So that is what this episode is about. Episode 111. We are talking about celebrating and advocating for social work in itself. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into our icebreaker. I'll see you over there. All right, welcome to episode 111's Icebreaker. So today we are picking from a deck of cards titled the Self-Care Wisdom Cards from Cheryl, Richardson. I know and believe that social workers can give a lot of insight and a lot of wisdom, so I wanted to pick a deck of cards that represented that. And I picked two cards today that absolutely spoke to my heart. And honestly, I just had a conversation with a different social worker yesterday about some of what the cards were saying. And so it just aligned so well. So the first card is love. As y'all know, we just got out of our Everyone Has a Love series, which we had some phenomenal guests and it was so great. And so love really speaks to me. I feel like that is my gift to this earth. I just love love. I love people. I love seeing people succeed, all of that. So this says love. And it says, love people, love them with all your heart. Just be sure to love yourself first. What is my life quote? Love you the way you love the world. We constantly love this world so much and we forget about ourselves. When my mom died, that is how the quote, love you the way you love the world, came about. Because when my mom died, nobody could love me the way I was loving them. And because I was always a strong friend, because I was always the person loving them, when it was my turn to need love, nobody knew what to do. Nobody had a clue, like, what to do. How do we love Lisa? She's always the one loving us. Now she needs love. Now what do we do? Now what it is? What is it? Woo! Okay, that's a little personal, but nevertheless, that's how that quote came about, right? And so, love you the way you love the world. That's what this card is saying. Love people, love them with all your heart. We have to love humanity. Like, what is going on in this world with the war against Israel versus Palestine, or Hamas versus Gaza, whichever way you want to spin it, we are not loving people. Too many people have died. When we think about a lot of these policies that are going on, like Missouri is trying to pass a law that you're a sex offender if you're a teacher or work in a school and refer to somebody as their preferred pronouns. What? I'm a sex offender because I'm respecting somebody? Go to hell. Okay? Go to hell. There was another one, I think, in New York. Man, I was looking at these policies this morning, but I was furious. I was freaking furious. Let me see. I think I posted it on my Instagram. I was freaking furious because we're creating policies where we don't love people. Like, and we're showing that every single day. Let's see. This one says a Missouri lawmaker wants to force teachers to register as sex offenders if they use a child's preferred pronouns. Go to hell. Okay. Okay, New York Governor Hashu deployed National Guard and state police to check passengers' bags and militarize the subway. We are constantly trying to make police relevant. We're constantly trying to make this a military lifestyle. Like, no. Kansas could soon require abortion providers to ask patients why they want to terminate their pregnancies and report the answers to the state. Again, go to hell. Cause why does this bother you so much? Like, as a politician, why does this bother you so much? You don't know what people are going through, and you're making their life a living hell. The Florida Senate, Florida can go right to hell. Okay, needs the front door. Florida Senate passed a bill blocking local rules protecting workers from heat. So we want workers, but we don't want to protect them from something that could potentially kill them. And this is why people don't want to work, right? This is why people do not want to work. This is why people don't want to go to work because our organizations, our corporations, our government is constantly telling us that they don't care about us. So I can come to you and work for you for 8 to 12 hours a day and die, and you just gonna hire somebody else. You don't care about us. Go to hell. Republican voters in North Carolina nominated a psychopath as a GOP nominee for governor. Oh, we really don't like people. Okay. Okay, great. What my point in reading all this is, as a social worker, it is important to know about policies that are going on in the world because all of these affect people. What does this have to do with this card? we have to love ourselves enough to know what is safe, what is right for us, where can we be ourselves. We have to love ourselves enough. We have to love ourselves enough to know I know I can't fix everything, but the things that I'm passionate about, the things that I can do, I need to do. And also, too, when it comes to love, love yourself enough to rest. I can read these policies all day, every day, and I'm very passionate about it. But there comes a time where I have to say, I can't read this today. That's not loving myself today. I'm struggling today. um, so there comes a point where you have to set that boundary with yourself, okay? And so even in that, love yourself enough to know when enough is enough. Love yourself enough to know when you have to start. Love humanity. See humans for who they are, which is being human. I've said this before in therapy. This last year, I learned from my therapist, like, we forget to allow humans to be humans, which means, like, in the human experience, we're going to be disappointed. We're going to have struggles. We're going to have issues. Yes, we will be happy, but not forever, right? And so we have to recognize the human experience. Love yourself enough to allow yourself to be human. Love yourself enough to allow yourself to experience whatever it is that you're experiencing. If it's anxiety, if it's depression, if it's happiness, if it's success, if it's a new job, if it's a new relationship, motherhood, parenthood, whatever it is that is your desire, love yourself enough. Give yourself permission to celebrate that. Baby steps are still steps, okay? Baby steps are still steps. I'm talking to myself here. Like, I have been coming to my building and just praising it because it's here. There was a time when we didn't have floors. There was a time I didn't have a building. There was a time where I never even thought I would have any of this, but I have it. And even though life isn't the way I want it to be, like, still being grateful for what it is. Um, so love people, love them with all your heart. Love people, love them with all your heart. Just be sure to love yourself first. And I want to encourage everybody under the sound of my voice, like, love yourself. Love you the way you love the world. Okay. Second choice, worry less about making the right choice and more about being strong enough to handle any outcome. Woo! This is a word. Woo! Okay. Worry less about making the right choice and more about being strong enough to handle any outcome. Make a decision and stand in it, even if it's not the outcome you wanted. Woo! Let me tell y'all something. I just had to refund a group of people for my second book because it's just taking too long for it to be made. Let's just be completely honest. One day I will tell my story. One day I will. Until then, I had to make a very costly decision to just refund people. The group of people who made the purchase will still get a book. They're gonna get it for free at this point because it's just taken way too long. Um, I asked quite a few people for help, and a couple of people came through. The people that I needed to come through, though, that's a conversation. But anyways, um, it's emotional for me because I've worked so hard for this book. I've worked so hard for Healing She Got Faith. I've worked so hard to support smaller businesses. I've worked hard to trust people with my projects, and people have constantly failed me. So the outcome of this was, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to refund everybody their money because life is too expensive. I cannot justify keeping people's money without any type of updates. And also, too, they've been waiting a very long time. And it's not fair when Amazon can deliver in 2 days. It's not fair when Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Target, and all of them can do all of this, and then here I am, and it's taking forever. Okay, it's not fair. And so what I did is I sent everybody email. I refunded everybody, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them beta readers, which beta readers just simply means they'll get to read the book before it goes public. They'll get to review it and things like that. Mostly everybody extended grace to me. Mostly everybody was really cool about it. And, praise God for that because I was stressed out. And so one of the reasons was I did not feel safe. No, that's not the right word. I did not feel okay which is keeping people's money without an update because it's not fair to them, because it's not their fault. They did what they were supposed to do. They paid for a product that at this point they haven't received. And so I had to be strong enough to handle the outcome. There could have been a possibility that I could have got cussed out. There could have been a possibility that somebody could have did a back charge, which if you've never had a back charge and you're a small business, praise God, because that is a difficult process and it's expensive. um, I've taken a lot of losses in my business. I've lost a lot of opportunity and money, and it's not necessarily because of me, but it's really because of just people have their plates are too full, to put it plain and simple. And so worry less about making the right choice and more about being strong enough for any outcome. And I think sometimes in life you just got to make a decision. You just got to go with it. You just have to go with it. You cannot worry about what the outcome is going to be. If you know that you did what you had to do, despite what the outcome is, you did that. And sometimes we just have to be okay in that. And that is something I'm learning in this entrepreneurship, in this authorship, in this life. Like sometimes you just got to make the decision. You just got to go with it. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. We don't have control over it. Be okay with what you don't have control over. Okay? Just be okay. Just be okay. We going to be okay. We going to be all right. Okay? So our two cards for today was love and choice. Card number one was love. Love people. Love them with all your heart. Just be sure to love yourself first. Card number two was choice. Worry less about making the right choice and more about being strong enough to handle any outcome. Yeah, I love you, but love you the way you love the world. Love yourself and make the right decision for you. That's love. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and jump into the topic of the day. Welcome to episode 111's topic of the day, which is celebrating advocating for social work. And I want to start off with, I was listening to Kim Young's podcast, which she is the Dope Black Social Worker on IG. So if you are on IG, go ahead and hit a follow, and on your podcast platforms, go ahead and go check out her podcast, which is the Revolutionary Hood Rat. Let me double check. It should be my last one. Yep, Revolutionary Hood Rat. Kim Young, she's a LCSW, which is licensed clinical social worker. So go ahead and follow her. But I was listening to her latest episode, and she talked about how most of the time when she talks to Black and brown social workers, they don't talk about how they grew up wanting to be a social worker. Like a lot of people kind of fell into social work, like social work chose them. And I just found that interesting because that's honestly how I became a social worker. I became a social worker when I very first got to college. I knew I was going to be an English teacher. I'm not going to lie, I watched Freedom Writers and I just knew I wanted to be an English teacher. And in high school, the number one teacher that like changed my life, which she's still in my life today, we stay connected through Facebook, was my like English teacher, communication arts teacher, whatever they call it in school now. And it made a difference, and that's who I wanted to be. I'm like, she is such a good person. She's helping me. I suffered with a lot of depression in high school, and she was a teacher. She advocated for me. She was there, and to this day she's still there. And as an adult, I tried to be there for her as well. So I wanted to do that. I went to college. I really didn't want to go to college. Let's start there. Really had no desire for undergrad or grad. And I'm going to be completely honest. I really only went to college. I really only have these degrees because of peer pressure. yeah, I need to talk about that one day. But yeah, I only went for peer pressure because it was a societal pressure. It was peer pressure. Like all my friends were going, all my friends' families, like they were like, you need to go to college. You need to do something with your life. And I'm like, pretty sure I can do something with my life without a college degree. But sure, let's go. So I went to college. I did English education for 2 years maybe. And very quickly learned that like this ain't for me. This is not what I want to do. The classroom is not for me, you know. So there was that. Then I went on this search for a major. Like, well, I don't know what to do. So I really thought about getting general studies, and people were like, oh, general studies is so bad. Like, nobody's going to hire you. And I'm like, but it's still a college degree. Like, I still paid for it. I still did all the work. I just didn't have a trajectory. And then even at that time, I was like, but I'm so young. Like, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Like, why does it matter? So anyways, a mentor at that time asked me, was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, just kind of describe to me what you want. So I described to her, like, I wanted to run a community center. She was working at the organization at the time. I was a participant. She was a participant. We both had worked for the organization at the time. And I was like, I want to be like a replica of that. I want to own my own community center. I want to see community centers on every corner. Like we see churches and quick trips, like our gas stations. And she was like, well, sounds like you want to be a social work. That's my major. And I was like, sure, whatever, let's try it. And so I applied to be in the school of social work and I got in. And my very, very first social work class, the teacher looked me dead in my soul and said, baby, you're not gonna make it. You ain't gonna make it. You gonna drop out. You gonna go ahead and you gonna go home. So you might as well go home because you ain't gonna be here. But she ain't know. I was homeless, so I ain't had no home to go to. So it was gonna have to work. It was gonna have to work, okay? Like I understand what you're saying, but I ain't got no choice. Like I have to make this work, okay? Because right now I don't have nothing to go home to. And my mama ain't got no money for me to come home. So we're gonna have to make this work. And I remember it took me 5.5 years to graduate my undergrad. So I started in 2010 and I started in August of 2010. I graduated in December of 2015. Whew. And so I remember it was my last semester and she came up to me and she was like, listen, I have to apologize because that first semester when you got in here and you was already late, like you were a later student coming into the social work program. And I looked at you and she said, I knew in my soul that she was not gonna make it. And she was like, you ended up being one of the only community social workers in the program. You have a very high GPA and you're one of the only ones who actually like stayed afloat. Mind you, in my course of my undergrad, towards the end of my undergrad like social work career, I think I got robbed. Was it twice? I think I got robbed twice, and what they stole was like semester work, like a semester worth of everything. Um, and like in that, so I would do my work all semester and then I would get robbed and all that stuff would be gone. So then I would have 3 weeks to do a whole semester of work and like just continuing to do it. And I think like that speaks to like a true social worker, right? Like no matter what comes at us, we gonna make it work. Like it's gonna be what it's gonna be. We gonna turn dirt into diamonds. Like it's gonna be that. One of the things that they used to constantly tell us in undergrad was like, you're not going to make money. And I really wish they wouldn't have said that because they'd be like, oh, your first job is only going to be like $24,000 a year. And so, like, I was going into it with that mindset, like, well, it's only going to be this. I'm not going to get paid for this because it was instilled in my head that I wasn't going to make it. And so, after I got done with my undergrad, I took a year off and I said I did not want to go to grad school because of because of all the stuff I went through in my undergrad. But I got this job, thought it was my dream job. I thought I was going to be there for at least 10 years. And they kept encouraging me, like, you should go get your master's, you could be a director, you could do this, you could do that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't know. So in January 2017, I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and go back to school. So I go back to school. My grad experience is completely different than my undergrad. Like my grad experience, it was very isolated. There wasn't a lot of support. I really didn't know how to make connections on campus because I was only on campus like twice a week at night, like from 6 to 9. I think I did a couple summer courses that were actually still night classes. So like grad school was only night classes. I never did it during the day, so I was never on campus during the day. Um, on top of that, social work programs require you to have a practicum, which means that like on top of taking classes, you're also working for free. And more than likely, like myself, you're actually working a full-time job. So, with all that being said, it was just very stressful. On top of that, 6 months before I graduated with my master's in social work, my mom got killed. That was a whole nother thing. I've talked about that quite a lot. It's also in both of my books. I talked about that. So, all of that, right? So, I get my master's in social work. I'm at this job. I'm like, hey, I graduated. You guys told me I would be able to get a promotion. And they were like, oh, we don't have the money. And I was like, oh, this is going to be the last time I'm working with you guys. And I left because no, like I just racked up all this money to get paid $30,000 a year. No, absolutely not. So fast forward to COVID hit. I moved. My mom died. Well, my mom died. I moved. COVID hit. That's how it went. So in 2020, I started my own organization. I was like, I could do like life coaching, emotional coaching. I could do like just stuff because I have the MSW, right? I fell in love with grief. So I started doing grief. I've always loved community. I've always loved resources. I've always loved making connection, advocacy. I used to always get in trouble for being loud. And now I get booked to speak. Now I'm a podcaster. Now I'm doing all this. Also, too, I realized social workers get paid to be loud and just disrupt things. And I used to get in trouble for that. Like, this was great. Like, now I get paid to get in trouble. That's great. So, I really start to realize that, like, the social worker education does not prepare social workers to, like, live outside of college and these degrees. They teach us, one, that we're always going to be poor. They teach us just certain things. It's a very research and theory heavy, but like they don't teach you like the real deal. And these tests are very discriminative. Discriminative. There's a lot of discrimination within the test, and so now you see a lot of these states, social workers, legislators. Yeah, no, let's not say them. But you see a lot of policy going into switch. And when I just went to the Millennial Social Work Conference, they talked about like things that they're doing to make social work an equal industry across the nation. And so it really does come down to we need as much advocacy for ourselves as we give to the world. And it's frustrating because I'm 33 years old. I've been in the nonprofit world professionally since 18. A lot of social workers work in the nonprofit world. I've been a business owner since 2020. I have my bachelor's of science in social work. I have my master's of science in social. I have my master's of science. I'm sorry. I have my master's of social work in community and organization with a specialization in nonprofit administration. Very long titles, right? But it's frustrating because, one, social workers are not valued. Nobody knows what social workers do. The common misconception of social workers is that we should all be therapists and all we do is take babies away. That pisses me off because we're more than that. Like, we can go in any industry and change the world. If you want change in your organization, hire a social worker. If you want creativity in your industry, hire a social worker. Social workers can change the game. We not only know about policy, research, analysts, but we also know theory. We also know how to be human. We also study human behavior. We also know how to connect with people. We know how to allow people to be human. We know how to make A and B connect even when A and B don't like each other. That's what you get when you hire a social worker. I've never wanted to be in case management. I've never wanted to be a therapist. I don't even like one-on-one work. I don't like solo work. I much rather like working with groups. I like working on team. One of my biggest struggles in life right now is that I've been doing a lot of solo work, and even in one of my main jobs, it's a very, very solo. Like, I don't have a team to depend on. It all depends on me, and I hate it. I don't like it. That's how therapy is. That's how, and that's one of the reasons why I never wanted to go the clinical route in social work, is because I just didn't want all of that to fall on me. And I'm in a predicament where in my business, it all falls on me. And in one of my jobs, it all falls on me. And so it's very frustrating. What is frustrating about it? Like, I've been applying to some pretty high executive positions, and a lot of people are like, oh, what does this social worker want to be an executive director for? What does this social worker want to be this leader for? What, like, why would a social worker want to do that? And so it kind of forces social workers to like kind of not say like, hey, we're social workers, because we already get discriminated against. But also too, it doesn't do us a service, because as we're advocating for social workers, because we have to not say we're social workers, it doesn't do us any justice. But we're in this pickle, right? Like, because if I say I am, y'all gonna put me in a box. But if I don't say I am, we're not gonna get the advocacy. So what are we to do? And that is what we're figuring out. If you see a social worker, pay a social worker, period. I don't care what type of social work they do. We have 3 different sections: micro, macro, meso. I have always been a macro social worker. I'm good at micro, but I hate it. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should do it. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. I have been saying, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you enjoy it, for a very long time. When I went to this conference, Stephen Hale, he's also an author and a social worker. He said I was good at something, but just because I'm good at it didn't mean I should do it. And I think that's essentially what I was saying, but also too, like, it's affirming, confirming, and reaffirming. Like, just because you can't do something does not mean you should. Make the choice to love yourself enough to do what you need to do. I do not like solo work. I do not enjoy one-on-one work. One of the reasons why I didn't last being a life coach or an emotional coach was because I didn't like the solo work. I did it. Yeah, I'm good at it. Yeah, I can plan curriculum, and yeah, I can build the connection between me and you, but I don't like it. Like, I don't like working with kids. I'm phenomenal with kids. Kids love me. I should have a daycare, okay? I hate it. I'm gonna keep it 1,000 with you. I love y'all kids. I love that y'all kids love me. I love that I have the connection. I do not like working with kids. There's only a couple kids that I will really sacrifice my time for, and one of them is one of the kids I nanny, my god kids, my nieces and nephews. I don't want to work with babies for a living. I don't want to work with kids for a living. I prefer high school and up. Middle school, I'm starting to get more and more middle schooler clients. It's not my favorite thing, but I would prefer middle school over little kids. That's just what it is. So, one of the things that we have to do is we have to celebrate social workers. We have to give social workers the credit that they deserve, and two, we have to advocate for them. Social workers never get a thank you. Let me tell you, these systems will celebrate counselors, they'll celebrate teachers, they'll celebrate nurses, they'll celebrate public health. They will have weeks and all types of things. When it comes to, it is social work month. We have a whole month. How many schools have I been to that has actually acknowledged? My own organizations that I work for haven't even acknowledged social work month. We get no acknowledgement. We get no thank you. That has to stop. Start thanking us. Send us a cash app. Stop buying us pizza. We are tired of pizza. Okay. I don't care how you cut it. I don't care if it's Chicago. I don't care if it's St. Louis. I don't care if it's New York. I don't care if it's big, long, square. I don't care. We are tired of pizza. We are tired of pizza. Okay. Get us a gas card. Get us a bonus. Write us $1,000 check. Support our business. If you see a social worker, they have a link. Click on the link. Join their email list. Purchase a shirt from them. Purchase their book. Please purchase something from a social worker. I am begging you. Please cash app them. I don't care if you got to cash app them $1. Please cash app them. We need support. We need support. Listen to their podcast. Start sending donations. Like, I don't care if it's a $5 donation. Please start supporting your social workers. Help us social workers contact these legislators and start demanding justice for social workers. If every social worker today decided that we were no longer going to be social workers, this world would go to hell. I'm just going to be completely honest with you, because y'all would realize how much we actually do, how much we support the nurses, how much we support other things. Oh, hold on. I had to come back. I'm in my building. Someone was knocking on the door, so I had to go handle that. I don't even remember where I left off at, but we gonna roll with the punches, okay? Again, that's what social workers do, right? We get interrupted, disrupted, and we just know how to move forward. And I think like that speaks to just who we are as people. It really does take a skill. And going back to the beginning of the episode when I brought up Kim Young and how she said like social work chose us. And I don't think enough of us really pay attention to that. It really takes a special person. It really takes a special type of skill set to be a social worker, to fight these systems, to fight these people who really just think of us as baby snatchers. And I think that that's the thing. People oftentimes just think of us as the people who take babies, the people who do therapy, the people who can just talk. Like, you know how many times I heard, I could be a social worker. All I got to do is listen to you. All I got to do is talk to you. It's more than that. We're literally the change makers of the world. And I think going back to what I said earlier, like these systems, these organizations, these corporations, they'll celebrate teacher appreciation, they'll celebrate nurses, they'll celebrate counselors, they'll celebrate psychologists, which are all very, very well needed, but won't look twice at a social worker. You know how many times I go to a school and staff just be in social worker's office, like there's not confidential stuff in there. Like there's not, like, you need to put some respect on our names. And this is what this is for. Like if you see a social worker, pay a social worker, period. Like cash at them. Like I said, go to their website, purchase something. Social workers need to be celebrated, and we also need advocating. Advocacy also comes with licensure. It also comes with making the social work qualifications across the nation um, easier for us to access. I took, so in the state of Missouri, we have the LMSW, LCSW, or LCMSW. Basically, you have a general license and a clinical license. I took the general license. I actually didn't take it in Missouri. I took it in New York. The first time I failed by 4 points. The second time I failed by 2 points. But I got all of my degrees of social work in Missouri. Nobody ever talked to me about licensure until a month before I was graduating with my master's. And so it was a complete shock to me, right? And so now I'm at this position, like, do I really need my license? Also, too, if we are gonna shake up some things and change it, I kind of want to see like what we're gonna change it to see if it benefits me, because it's expensive. And also too, like, I don't want to keep failing by 1 or 2 points. It'd be different if I'm failing by like 20 points. Like I can take that, but 1 or 2 points, yeah, like come on. Also too, like I don't want the clinical, because also with clinical comes with like 3,000 hours of supervision. I know there are some states, or there's at least a bill, I think it wasn't passed, but it was presented to where there was an alternative to the test. Like if people didn't want to take the test, they can opt out of the test and like do more hours, which would probably be like double. So it's basically 6,000 hours. Also too, I learned that the ASWB is the organization that hosts the test. So they're the ones that create the test, which is very discriminatory. I think that's the word. If I'm saying the wrong word. And also too, like I learned that each state has just kind of fell in line to take this test. But like if we stop saying that we're no longer going to use this test, like that could very much be a real thing. Because also too, a couple of the bills that have been passed didn't necessarily say we're going to get rid of the test. We're just offering another opportunity to other people, which I think is great, because we should have options. There shouldn't just be one way. Also, too, y'all changing these tests, and I don't actually think that y'all know what social work is either. Like, who are these people doing these tests? Like, so in that there's advocacy too, right? So like, how many licenses do we need? What does it look like if I get a license in one state and want to practice in another state? Is there reciprocity? Is there, like, what is it? And so there needs to be advocacy in this. Social workers need the community to help us to reach legislation. Like if we can talk to our legislation about our qualifications, like that would help us tremendously. So if you see a social worker and they're telling you like, hey, we're trying to talk to our legislation about licensure, we're trying to find alternatives to a test, we're trying to challenge the people that make this test and let them know like the issues within the test, like we need you all. Like we are the change makers. We are going around helping the world. We need help. We need advocacy for ourselves. The thing about social workers, will never stop advocating, even if we leave the industry. It's embedded in us. Like we will always have that skill set with us. The other thing I want to encourage social workers is that our skills are transferable. You can go anywhere. So if you're tired of being a school social worker, you can go somewhere else. Your skills are transferable. What we need help with is learning how to present ourselves with transferable skills. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to go be a director at a mental health clinic, I guarantee you already have the skill set. You want to be a consultant for the school instead of working for the school, I guarantee you already have it. You just need to learn how to write your proposal. You just need to know how to present yourself. There are things that we can do to make ourselves be known with these transferable skills. You have what it takes to do what it needs to do. Easier said than done. And I'm talking to myself too. I have been struggling as a social worker to the point where all last year I was like, I'm just gonna have to leave social work. Like, but no, like I can be an executive director. I can be an executive leader. I can anything that I don't quote unquote qualify for, the corporation can train me on. It's simple. Like we can learn, but we have what it takes. And I want to say that. So if you see a social worker, pay a social worker, support them, go to the link, book them, do the 15-minute consultation, buy the book, buy the journal, buy the t-shirt, buy the sweatshirt, donate to them, buy them lunch, no pizza though. If you do that, we need advocacy. We need social workers. Start celebrating social workers the way you do nurses, the way you do teachers, the way you do counselors, the way you do principals, the way you do public health. Please, please, please start representing us. Okay, because we will never give up on you. We will never give up on ourselves. We will never give up on the community. We might walk away, but it's always embedded in us. But even then, it's very rare that a lot of us are walking away. Okay, and we're more than just case managers. We're more than just therapists. We're more than just people who work for the government. Also, too, I want to end on this, and then that'll be the episode. Just because you work for a state and the state calls you a social worker does not make you a social worker. You are only a social worker if you at least have the degree that says you are. So that's I don't even know if they have an associate of social work, but like a bachelor of social work, a master of social work. And then if you have the licensure, so like the licensed master of social work, the licensed clinical master of social work, the licensed whatever, you have to have the credentials behind your name to call yourself a social worker. Family support specialist is not a social worker. Like you have to have the credentials to call yourself a social worker. So just because a state might say, oh, you just need a high school diploma and you're a state social worker, you're not a social worker if you don't have any of the degrees to back you up. That is something else that we need advocacy with, and that is something else that we need help with. Get the degree to call yourself a social worker, period. BSW, MSW, DSW. I think that's the doctor of social work, I think is what it's called. So definitely like we need advocacy in the sense of like we need respect. We need you all to recognize us. We need you all to advocate for us. We need you all to support us. We need you all to recognize us. Stop walking in our office because you don't know what we do. If you don't know what we do, ask. Stop making assumptions, please. Just because you think your social worker is not doing anything, it simply means that you just don't know, and you should just ask. So that is episode 111. So yes, I'm a social worker. I'm sending love to all of my social work colleagues. Happy Social Work Month. We got this. We in there. We are the change makers, the shift shakers. We shaking the tables. We flipping tables. We slapping. Okay, I'm stop. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead. As always, in on our affirmation, I love you, but love you the way you love the world, and I'll see you over there. Welcome to episode 111's affirmation. Okay, so this affirmation is for all my social workers, and it says, I am a social worker. I demand justice, and I am a change maker. I am a social worker. I demand justice, and I'm a change maker. We have to be our own reminders. As social workers, we get burnt out. We what's it called? Imposter syndrome is real, and we end up like downplaying ourselves. We do make the world go around. Period. We make the world go around. We are proud. We are the ones making the changes. We fight every day of our life, and we just need to remember that. I am a social worker. I demand justice, and I am a change maker. Okay. So see a social worker, pay a social worker. All right. I love you, but love you the way you love the world. And I'll catch you next Monday. Bye, guys.